Hey, welcome to Snap Judgments, everybody. And today, TJ Wengert is joining us for a follow up to our mock draft that we did about a month ago. We just wanted to kind of see what changes might happen in post free agency and post pro days, post all sorts of things. So really kind of, we're in this low point of the everything's kind of been done. All the cows are in from pasture, and we're just trying to count them up and figure out where they go, I guess. So yeah, a lot of big changes for you in this, you think, TJ, or what?
Well, yeah, no, and this time of year gets tough because it's smokescreen season, right? So, like, we've pretty much got all the testing numbers. What we think about these prospects is pretty much set in stone. But now it's like, okay, well, do I believe that little tidbit I heard? Okay, can I trust this source for this? Okay, well, of course you would say that because that's what I would want you to think. Like that. Now it's like the game of lies and all the games everyone's trying to play with one another. So now it's going to be interesting to see like how much we want to buy into some of that stuff. But that being said, the smoke does make the mock drafts very, very fun. If you buy into them, you can do some really fun like different trades and possibilities and shake up the board a lot.
Yeah. I mean, we saw last year, this time, I'll always be reminded of Andrew Berry going out there talking about how, he wishes he could draft Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders both in the top five. Yeah. And it turns out he really didn't want to draft either one of them in the top five. Right. So, listen, we had talked about doing a couple different things, a 2-round mock draft with some trades and so forth. But as it turns out, the hamster in my laptop will not run fast enough to do those things. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick with old reliable draft professor. Look, it's not perfect because the guy that runs it is not a big fan of mine, and thus vice versa, apparently. But B, and really more importantly, you can't do trades. And it's very, very upsetting to me for this purpose because I really wanted to do a trade for this mock draft. And so, I'll mention it. There was talk about Arizona and Dallas trading that kind of excited me. And what I was going to have happen is I was going to have Arizona snipe Ty Simpson at 20. And then
you dog.
But yeah. And it would have just been like surprise out of the middle of nowhere. So it didn't work out that way. I'm crafty enough to come up with these plans, but not crafty enough to make my computer work. So here we are, draft professors, no ads. That is optimal for this particular purpose because, man, the connection makes it tough. All right. Let's run through these first two picks here. Fernando Mendoza, Arvell Reese, kind of consensus top 2 picks at this point in time. You agree?
Yeah, I would agree. Mendoza, we've known that one since pretty much he won the Heisman. Once the Raiders got the number 1 pick, that was pretty much set in stone. And then Reese, it does feel like that's the betting favorite. And I'm really interested to see how they use his deployment, off-ball linebacker, that edge, what's that ratio, and then how do you develop that pass rush plan. But the upside is undeniable with Arvell Reese. So, yeah, it does feel like those are the top 2. And honestly, those are like 2 of the biggest stories from college football last year. So kind of fitting that they're picks 1 and 2.
Yeah. I mean, to me, Reese is a little bit of a risky projection as an edge, just because he has so few reps really at edge. He's just kind of come on this year ago today. Even dudes like you and me who are deep in the draft for every year, way ahead of time, did not know Arvell Reese's name. It wasn't until the summer that even a couple guys started floating his name out. And then in the fall, a little bit more, and it really grew. And, I had shared this on a different podcast, but I do kind of feel like you see that bend at the edge in just this drill. And it's like so much more natural with Bain. He's just got a lot more experience at the edge, and Reese just is not. So it's, I don't know. I do feel like it's a little bit of a projection.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, especially when you're comparing it to like David Bailey, right? Because you could take the edge rusher that without a doubt is an edge rusher, and you just plug him into your lineup and your day is done. But by year 3, could Reese figure this out? Could he have more natural bend that he can more easily showcase and display? Because there are a lot of flashes where like his pass rush win rate's not great, but there's a handful of reps of him being a pass rusher. And I think he only had like 125 pass rush reps this year, like really not that much. Yeah. But there are some flashes in there where you're like, this guy on a full-time basis could take that step to the next level. And that was some of the same stuff we said about Micah Parsons. Parsons, although with more of a sample size, multiple years being able to do it. But that being said, given this draft class, I don't hate the idea of going for the upside swing in a group where, like, there's not a whole lot of signature blue chip franchise changing type of talent. So I don't hate the upside swing. And you have 2 first-round picks. So if Reese doesn't work out and he's just a really good linebacker and you took a linebacker at 2, well, what happened to you at 16 could ultimately kind of save this first round for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you kind of you don't want to call it wasting or burning a pick, but like if you end up, wasting a pick on low positional value or whatever, that's the year to do it when you've got 2 top 16, 3 in the top 50, et cetera. And I mean, this kind of what you were saying, there's no blue chip. What I've been saying this week is there are no centerpieces in this draft. And that's what I've been calling it, centerpieces and puzzle pieces. And it's like, you want the right puzzle pieces because you're building a team, you're building, kind of in this example, the picture of a championship team, and you've got to get the right pieces in there, and you can't always draft for centerpieces, guys to build around. There's not Myles Garrett in every draft, sometimes you've got to go and just get that guy that fits a role.
Sorry, case in point, like my 4 blue chippers this year, 2 linebackers, one of which you can project to an edge, but like 2 linebackers, a safety, and a running back. Like those are my blue chippers this year. And like as good as those guys may be, they're probably not the reason you're winning the Super Bowl. Maybe I'm wrong. Would love to be wrong, but they're probably key contributors, but they may not be the reason.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And look, it's not that these guys aren't important. These guys are very important. You've
100%.
got to have these guys for a successful championship team. It's just, you don't usually, you're usually trying to target the centerpieces in the top 5. But all right, well, we've got Arizona on the clock here. Again, it kind of seems like the standard pick is CC Maui-Noa, but I have heard rumbling of some other suggestions. And I believe on your recent mock draft with Mike Renner there, you guys went with Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
So
Renner threw me off with that one. I did not see that one coming.
Yeah, you were surprised. I was surprised watching at home too. So it's do you think it's Maui-Noa is the lock, or do you think that they could throw a curveball to the whole draft?
Honestly, if we were doing trades, I think the trade back, try to get Maui-Noa would be like ideal outcome. But who moves up to 3 is the question mark. And I mean, like, there's the rumors of the Dallas stuff, but even that, like giving up 2 first-round picks to draft a linebacker, he's a blue chip linebacker. Maybe they won't. But here, what if I throw you a curveball and we just take Sonny Styles here? What if instead of hypothetical, what if Dallas comes up and takes Sonny Styles? What if the Arizona Cardinals come to the same conclusion? Hey, that's the best non-quarterback in this class, and the Jets just took a linebacker too. We're going to be paying him a lot of money, but we think he's going to be worth it. So you want to just go Styles here at 3 and have some fun? Game out of
let's do it. Actually, it wouldn't be the first time that the Cardinals have used a high pick on a guy like in that vein, Isaiah Simmons a number of years back.
But to that point, what Sonny Styles is. Like Simmons was this kind of homeless guy. Reddick, we're going to play him at off-ball linebacker, but he was a college edge. And Zaven Collins, he was an off-ball linebacker, and we don't know where we're going to play him. This one, it's like he's a linebacker. There's no overthinking this one, playing the linebacker. So if anything, it's like, untying the hands behind their back.
Yeah. Well, let's do that. I do like the Love pick to the Titans. Like, I feel like it's a good fit. I feel like it makes a lot of sense. And I feel like they do need wide receivers. This is a deep wide receiver class. I'd feel just about as good getting like a Chris Brazil or someone like that early in the second round as I do about a Carnell Tate in the first round. Like when you pile what you'd be able to get at running back, like a Chris Brazil and Jeremiah Love versus Carnell Tate and like, I don't know, Jadarian Price or whoever your RB2 would be.
Right. No, I definitely get that. I like the Love pick here. Personally, I would probably, as weird as it is, like Love is higher and he's one of my blue chippers. I kind of lean towards Tate here, but I know we're not doing trades necessarily, or if we want to, once we get there. Honestly, I think the way around it for Tennessee, because I have 6 receivers in my top 25, 5 in my top 18 that I really like these guys. And I wonder if, like Buffalo, they have picked 26 and then they don't pick again until 91. I wonder if we go Love here, could Tennessee give up pick 35 and pick 101 just outside the top 100? But collectively, those two add up to about what pick 26 is worth. And I wonder if that would be a way for the Bills. Hey, we're going to move back 9 spots. We're still going to get a guy we like. We get an extra, basically top 100 pick. We need the extra depth. And then Tennessee comes up and they take Casey Concepcion, who I think would be a phenomenal add to Ayumanor and Wandale Robinson, and add a lot of speed, frankly, for that wide receiver room with Cam Ward's arm. So maybe that's the direction we go. And frankly, if they did do that, the idea of Love at 4 is like, okay, cool. Now I see what you're doing. So I mean, maybe we can tinker with that trade later.
Up here in New England, we've heard a lot of talk about maybe Jordan Tyson falling into the low to mid 20s. And if he was falling in that range, I could really see them jumping up to try to get him and take a real swing on him, if they felt good about his health. So, all right, let's go with Love at 4, which leaves the New York Giants on the board, but without Sonny Styles or Jeremiah Love. Where do you think they end up going? I think wide receiver seems like the no-brainer right here, but you could argue that safety makes sense too, because Harbaugh's had success adding talented safeties.
Yeah, but to me, when it comes down to the safety question, I mean, like Downs is a home run. He's again one of these blue chippers, and if you ran him next to Javon Holland, I'd be pumped up. I'm not ready to quit on Tyler Nubin, especially with the new coaching staff and hopefully a more stable just set of foundation of how that team's going to run. Hopefully that can make Nubin better. But also, I'm still a Javon Holland guy. So, like, to me, I just look at receiver and I'm like, you still need someone to complement Malik Neighbor, especially now that Wandale's gone. So I like going Carnell Tate here. He plays on the outside. Neighbors plays your Z slot role more on the inside. Sign me up for that. And that's just a great 1-2 punch. And also, a ball winner. When Jackson Dart needs to just chuck it up and trust his receiver, like Tate is the guy to kind of be that guy. And I mean, Neighbors is awesome and he could be that guy as well. So, like, don't get me wrong, throw up 50-50 balls to Neighbors too. But this is the nice 1-2 punch I think sets up this team for years to come.
Yeah, no, I think that's an ideal pick for these guys. That's kind of been my pick. Carnell Tate, it's kind of a funny year just prospect wise. It's like Carnell Tate is my wide receiver 1, but at the same time, I'm not convinced he can be a wide receiver 1.
Sure.
And there are guys behind him, like a wide receiver 2, like Tyson, who I think can be a wide receiver 1. He's made of porcelain, and I don't know if he can stay healthy. So it's such a weird class, but I think Tate fits in well there.
Or you make the projection of, like, Lemon's my wide receiver 1, but I've always been a guy who's like, I don't mind force feeding the slot player. And frankly, I value slot corners a ton, compared to like most. So I'm the guy who's like, I'm not worried about the slot guy being my top target. But there might be some coaches who were like, no. Like, I could see a lot of ways Bobby Slowick, the OC in Miami, he had Nico Collins. He might look at Mekhi Lemon and be like, that's a great football player, but I want to feed volume to my guys on the outside. Like, I could see where he's just like, nah, I don't want to make the slot receiver versus, I don't know, I'm trying to think about who would, Ben Johnson was somewhere other than Chicago and didn't already have sick receivers, but I don't know, or Mike McCarthy, right? Like with CeeDee Lamb as their slot receiver. If Mekhi Lemon falls in this class, he might be like, oh, dude, oh my God, this is like my CeeDee Lamb for this offense. Let's go. I'm totally comfortable with that. So some of it's also like just internal, like what are these teams looking for and what are they comfortable scheming up for?
Right. Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, Cleveland's on the clock next. I was early on the Monroe Freeling thing. Is there anybody else that you could see fitting Cleveland here? Or
I'm almost wondering if they love Spencer Fano and they're just like hyping up Monroe Freeling just to keep people's eyes off of Spencer Fano. Like, this is one of the smokescreen games. Now, that being said, you were projecting him to be a guy who moves over to the left side. He has played some snaps there, obviously not a full-time basis or a full-time starter at left tackle, but he's gotten some work there. But he is one of these guys where, like, if you just trust the talent and his movement skills, like, I totally understand why he's worth the swing of the bat at 6. In a lot of ways, he presents a higher floor for you immediately. That being said, the Browns, they should be prioritizing as high of a draft pick in 2027 as humanly possible. So, frankly, if there's growing pains with Monroe Freeling, that's fine. It just comes down to, can we even them out by year 3? Because by year 3, we're in year 2 of that rookie quarterback that we take next year, rookie contract quarterback that we take next year. Can Monroe Freeling be a stalwart at left tackle? And then our other free agency moves, have they come together the way we hope? So I like Monroe Freeling here at 6. It's definitely an upside play. In a perfect world, they could trade back and then take him. But it's the same thing we said about like Arizona at 3. It's like, it's cool to say that, but can you actually get a team to move up? That's going to be the question this year.
Now, if you're going to make an upside play, why not Caleb Lomu, who's played a lot of left tackle and is definitely a left tackle by trade?
Yeah. And I mean, Lomu, to me, he's neck and neck with Freeling, but I wonder if part of it is 6'6" and a quarter, 313. Let's go look at Freeling real quick. I think Freeling came in Yeah, 315. He's a little bit taller, a little bit heavier, the wingspan a little bit longer as well. So there's just a few of these little these little traits that kind of just slightly tick in the direction of Freeling. And what I will say is Lomu in the run game, I think he can get there. He just needs more muscle mass, and frankly, he needs more grip strength. He just needs to be able to lock on to guys. Freeling, you can at least, and all that's true for Freeling too. But Freeling, you can see him get on the move as a pulling tackle, and you're like, whoa, hold on. Now that is freaky stuff. So like that's kind of where I think I give the edge to Freeling. They both need to improve as run blockers, but like Freeling, you've seen get on the move and be even like a lead blocker on screens. And there's flashes there where you're like, okay, he just needs 5 pounds of muscle, 8 pounds of muscle max, and we've got something serious here. So I kind of lean a little bit toward Freeling personally, but both are definitely like upside projection plays. And frankly, it'll come down to the team that takes them, if we're completely honest. You know, like one goes to Lions and then one gets stuck in some albatross organization. I don't want to throw one team under the bus, but you know, one guy goes to Alcatraz, one team goes to the Lions, you know, or something like that. I could see it working out a lot better for that Lions situation than, you know, Alcatraz.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if, you know, some sort of Georgia connection doesn't tip the scales. And Todd Monken says, listen, you know, I've heard a lot about him. I got a lot of connections in Georgia.
Totally.
And Monroe Freeling's my guy.
100%.
So, all right, let's go with Freeling there. Now, Washington, we had talked a little bit pre-show about Washington and their potential cornerback need. What do you think about that? Do you think Mansour Delane or Jamrod McCoy would be your pick?
Yeah, I kind of want to just pick your brain and because I mean, like the Ruben Bain and some of these, you know, David Bailey, Caleb Downs, we've done this enough to where yes, would it makes a lot of sense? And is Caleb Downs one of my blue chippers? Yes. Would that make that football team better? Absolutely. Ruben Bain, is he like a total awesome compliment to Odafe Owe? Absolutely. But they've also addressed those positions in free agency, and the one spot they haven't yet is corner. And right now, like one of their, you know, starting corners, you know, is Mikey Sammer still on the outside, who to me is much more of a nickel. And if he does play in the nickel, then it's second year Trey Amos and then Akello Witherspoon on the outside. I don't love that. So I wonder, especially with like how clean of a prospect Delane is. He's not the biggest guy, but so smooth with his feet, great at the line of scrimmage with how he uses his hands, and multiple year starter at multiple Power 4 programs. I wonder if like Dan Quinn would view him as, in a lot of ways, I think a lot of teams will view him this way, as an NFL ready corner who's coming off the best season of any corner in college football this last year. I'm going to plug him in and not have to think about that spot. So I kind of lean towards Delane, one, just to mix it up a little bit, but it's also like a glaring need. And if they're going to pick here at 7, like the Caleb Downs injury thing that was kind of floated out there, maybe that's enough to say, hey, we like Delane more. Ruben Bain's little stubby arms, you know, like maybe that's enough to say, hey, we like Delane more. So I could see a world where they kind of talk themselves into like, Delane's actually the highest guy on our board. So I don't hate it whatsoever. And it's, like I said, a huge need when you look at that depth chart.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that if you're able to put Sandra still into the slot, then you really kind of fixed a lot of things in that secondary. And then I also think there's some like cornerback needy teams in the next 3-4 picks that you really feel like, listen, I'm either taking a tier 1 corner or I'm not. And, you know, why not go out there and take a guy who might be at the top of your board? So, yeah, I like to lane there.
And this is a class with a lot of
clock.
Sorry. This is a class with a lot of second round talent at corner. Like a lot of my mock C-State gets there. Chris Johnson's there. D'Angelo Pons is there. This team doesn't have a second round pick. So like your third round options all of a sudden are Davison Igbinosun, Jakario Davis, Chandler Rivers, Devin Moore, Julian Neal, maybe if they're there at 71. Yeah, I like the idea of going to lane here at 7 a lot.
Well, and at 71, if you're looking at receiver, if you're looking at edge, these are fairly deep positions in this particular draft class. So, yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah, and Tate's not here, but like if you told me it was Delane and then like Malachi Fields or Ted Hurst or whoever in the third round, oh my God, home run versus Bain here. And then I don't know, maybe it's Julian Neal. And I like Julian Neal a lot, but like, you know, like that's good and improves that defense, but I don't know if it's quite the home run haul that like Delane plus like a Fields or a Hurst would be.
Well, we got the Saints on the clock then. You know, there's a couple interesting wide receiver options, and it looks like the fan base here for the Saints likes those guys, but it looks like they like Ruben Bain the best here. Do you think he fits into the Saints scheme?
Yeah, a little bit more of a, you know, base 3-4, and, you know, some of that's a little overrated and whatnot, but the idea of Granderson and Chase Young being your stand-up rushers, and then like Bain and Brian Brzee, who's not been great, but like if he's going to bring anything, a little bit of pass rush juice, frankly, the fact that Bane and how good of a run defender he is makes it a little bit easier to like swallow the pill of having Brissy on the field. But like all of a sudden, you look at that 4 and you're like, well, Granderson's a good football player. Young's coming off a career year. Love Ruben Bane. Okay, let's see where this goes. All of a sudden that looks like a pretty impactful defensive line. And also, I also just wonder with his run stopping ability and power, like if Brandon Staley, this is not my comp, not by any stretch, but I wonder if he could be like, there's enough Aaron Donald there for me to work with. So, yeah, I kind of like Ruben Bane as a fit there for the Saints. And if he gets to you at 8, I mean, that's hard to argue with that value.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who would think he's the top 3 player in the class.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see. Let's put Bane there to New Orleans and see what we have the Chiefs doing in this situation. I think there's probably an argument to be made for offensive line, but they have invested heavily there between free agency and the draft over the last 14 months or so. So there's probably and they've kind of done the opposite in the cornerback room.
Right.
So there's probably argument to be made between somewhere in the secondary, somewhere on the offensive line, and then I don't know. I mean, Chris Jones isn't getting any younger. They need edge rush help. There's a lot of stuff that they need for a pretty good team.
Yeah, Bailey is just not the type of edge rusher they normally take. And I just don't know if Spags is going to back down off of what he normally covets. And then likewise, like corner would make a lot of sense here. Go get Jermon McCoy before there's a little bit of a drop off, but just not a team that's typically done that. Like they love those 3rd round and later guys. Noah Williams, kind of case in point. Hell, even Jalen Watson going to the Rams, case in point. They developed that guy from day 3 to getting a bag from the Rams. Yeah. So I'd love, like, Bailey would be like the Dwight Freeney for this team, to where it's just like, hey, we're up 10 in the 4th quarter. David, do you mind putting this game away for us? I could totally see, and that would be awesome. But frankly, I'm kind of looking at Caleb Downs here or CC Moinoa. I do like CC as like a long-term starter at tackle would be fun. But Caleb Downs is twofold, like a versatile safety who, like, Spags loves moving those guys around. Jamari Connor, Tyrann Mathieu, like moving these guys up, down, slot, you name it. So I think Downs would be a sick Spagnuolo piece. But also think about who's on the team next, who's on the clock next. So if you don't take Downs here, he's the pick of 10. And like I feel like Kansas City probably knows that. And if you run into Kansas City in the playoffs, would you rather have Caleb Downs or face Caleb Downs? I think the answer is you'd rather have Caleb Downs. So I'm going to go Caleb Downs here at 9.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. The one thing I would say about the corner room, and I had talked about this with Matt Chabot, who from Chabot Sports, who's been on this podcast a couple times. He's a Chiefs guy. And he had kind of made the same point about the Chiefs liking to go late with the corner, 3rd round and so forth. But like I said to him, McDuffie himself was a 1st rounder. So I wonder if they felt comfortable surrounding a 1st round talent with 3rd round talent. And but they kind of had a base of like a 1st round guy there. Right. And so I wonder if Caleb Downs doesn't help give them that in the secondary, where they feel comfortable with one like elite blue chip type talent, and then you can fill in the rest around that. So
and think about McDuffie, he was more inside outside versatile. Downs is like, you could play him in the slot, he could play in the box, he could play over the top. Like, yeah, like totally. It's a little bit different than McDuffie, but like still tons of alignment versatility there. And maybe that does make leaning on later round corners that much easier. Totally.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, so that takes Downs off the board for the Bengals. There is, there's not a pass rusher that you could. Well, David Bailey's on the board for them. Defensive line is listed as a need. Defensive tackle. Where do you think they go here?
I mean, if Peter Woods didn't have the drop off that he did this year, like this would be okay. Sprint the card in Peter Woods. Okay, cool. You love Caleb Downs, but Peter Woods also really works. And I'm almost kind of. I mean, you could go Dylan Thieneman, play him with Brian Cook, and honestly, maybe move Dax Hill into the slot or something like that. And maybe this team wants to go corner and move Dax Hill into the nickel. That could be kind of fun. But I'm honestly kind of looking at David Bailey. And I mean, look, I know they signed Boye Mafe and they took a 1st round edge last year, and Miles Murphy's still around. But when was the last time we could say the Bengals had 4 guys deep that we felt comfortable playing? And frankly, their best edge rusher and the most productive edge rusher of the last 3 years is now playing for a division rival. So Boye Mafe is going to help replace some of that production, but Boye Mafe is not, Trey Hendrickson. So I think I'm going to go David Bailey here. And look, I know that that's 4 guys deep, but the Philadelphia Eagles won a Super Bowl doing just that. The Seattle Seahawks had a deep edge rotation, and look how that played out for them. So I don't know. I'm going to go a little bit in a different direction. And frankly, you would probably want to have a different board here if you're Cincinnati. But I'm going to go David Bailey and just say, hey, all of a sudden we have 4 guys we like to play on the edge. That's going to make us that much better on defense.
Okay. Yeah, we'll give that a shot, see how it fits, and see what Bengals fans think of it. Bengals fans, hop in the comments and let us know how you feel like that fits, whether or not David Bailey is a fit there for you guys. Now, Miami is on the clock. They need help pretty much everywhere. They did recently list off kind of the foundational pieces that they thought that they were building around. Devon A. Chain was one of them. Their center, whose name escapes me right now, was one of them. And Jordan Brooks, the linebacker, was one of them. Interesting that Kenneth Grant was not, because he was their first round pick last year. But, I digress. Where do you think, I do think that, they've got Kenneth Grant at D tackle. They've got Zach Seiler there too. And he's an excellent run defender, excellent D tackle. So I don't really think they need help on the interior defensive line. But basically everywhere else, where do you think is the smartest place for them to go here?
I think this is another team that probably waits on corner, and I don't even know if they do it at 30. And part of that's just like the Jeff Hafley of it all. And it's tough. This is going to go one of two ways. Either they're going to go corner here at 11, or I don't even know if they'll do it in the second round, because it's going to be something that Jeff Hafley looks at as like, holy cow, this corner room has nothing for me to work with. Need a guy. And you go Jermon McCoy here, and okay, cool. There's our answer to this question. Or he's going to take the Green Bay approach and just say, hey, like your scheme is that's what we're paying you for, and I had kind of floated out like Sean McDermott, like those first few years in Buffalo before they drafted Kyrie Elam in the first round, before the Maxwell Hairston first round pick, like there was a long stretch there where a lot of Bills fans were like, why don't we draft corner in the first round? And the answer was Sean McDermott was, we have two good safeties and my scheme makes this work. So it doesn't really matter. So right. I could see it going the other way for Hafley here, where he's like, it's okay. The corners here are okay. They're fine. So with that said, I do think this team's going to probably go O-line first. I just think first-year head coach, you probably got a long leash, especially after the Jalen Waddle trade. So kind of like the Saints last year where they go tackle at 9. I think they're just going to go, who they see as BPA and like a safe pick here at 11, a guy that's going to be playing for them for the next 5 years. So really any of CeCe Moinoa, Spencer Fano, or Venga Ioane, I think all are contenders here. I can see they want a lot of different directions. CeCe's the hometown kid, 5-star recruit, Miami national, in the national championship. That's an easy sell. Spencer Fano could play literally any of the 5 spots you ask him to in 5 years' time. So like you can't go wrong with that versatility. Or you take Vega Ioane because you know what he is, and he's just a mauler of people. He's a great pass protector, and you just, hey, that's our left guard. Cool, easy. Yeah. So I kind of lean CeCe and keep him in Miami. I think that would be not a whole lot of offensive line jersey sales in the league, but this would be one that actually kind of goes through the roof. So, and also like one of the higher ranked guys on my board. And frankly, I just, even if it's not a tackle, he could be a guard for them too. So like you do still have some position flexibility here with CeCe.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a situation where BPA meets need, and you can, it's a rare situation where you could take a guard with your first overall pick and please your fans. Right. Like that's not often that you can really eat your vegetables and get happy about it. And I think that's one of these rare situations where you can and need to do that. Now, Dallas is on the clock here, and Dallas, I feel like every year, everybody expects Dallas is going to do this wild, flashy sort of thing, and Dallas every year just sits there and quietly, eats their vegetables. They quietly do the smart thing. They take the guards. They take the, linebackers higher than you think. They take the low positional value guys that have a high impact on the field for them very often. Is there anything on this board that hops out at you that you think, man, that's a Dallas thing to do right now?
Yeah, like the two that immediately jump off the table are Jermon McCoy and Dylan Thieneman. So it really kind of comes down to, as I look at their roster, it's like, here's your safety room. Jalen Thompson, Malik Hooker, PJ Locke, Marquise Bell, Julius Wood, Elijah Clark. Okay, like I like Jalen Thompson. And then the rest are names on that roster. And then on the cornerback spot, like I can honestly see why you would want to go Jermon McCoy here. They took Shavon Ravel, so it's kind of like the third-round version of McCoy from a year ago, and Kalen Carson, and then Kobe Durant, Deron Bland. Durant's been a primary slot. Bland's best balls come from the slot, but he can play outside. I don't love either, to be completely honest with you. But I think, you know what? Let's mix it up. Let's go Jermon McCoy, especially after seeing the pro day, right? Like now at least we can say, hey, we've seen him move 4.4 flat in the 40. That's a great time. And one of him or Shavon Ravel workout. if you took that swing to the bat in the third round, don't be afraid to do it with a better talent in a first round version of that. So I'm going to go Jermon McCoy here at 12. Part of that is also I've just been doing Dylan Thieneman to death. So let's keep him on the board and let's see what happens to him if he makes it past 12.
Well, and I like McCoy too, because Dallas is one of these teams with 2 first-round picks. And it's like, okay, if you're going to take a guy, you take a swing. And look, if he doesn't work out health-wise, whoever you take at 20, like your first round's not lost. So that makes a whole lot of sense to me. Now, the Rams, they've done a lot of heavy lifting, rebuilding that secondary, primarily turning it into Kansas City West. Do you think that they go on the other side of the ball? Like their fans seem to think they're going to go on the other side of the ball and grab a wide receiver there.
That's kind of
so there's that option.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm kind of leading receiver here. Like look, Puka Nacua has played over the last 3 years, 70% of his snaps out wide, 66.3, and then last year 60%. That's a career low. So he still plays majority outside. So one of Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson here, sign me up for that. I have personally been going Jordan Tyson because I look at this team and I'm just kind of like, what do you have to lose? Like this is not even your pick. This is the Falcons pick. And that's for a guy that may never play another snap in the NFL. So I kind of like the idea of like, while you have Devontae Adams, could he be the mentor for Jordan Tyson? They have a lot of similarities in their game. And then like long-term, you have Puka and Tyson as your 1-2 punch. Oh my God.
Right.
Like that's how you keep this team championship caliber, even post Matt Stafford era. But in a lot of ways, I could see them going my receiver 1 and Mekhi Lemon too. Like he's very much, like you see the shades of Amon-Ra St. Brown, you see the shades of Puka Nacua. Those comps are out there for a reason. And in a lot of ways, he comes without the porcelain glass, kind of concerns where, is Jordan Tyson be able to play for us in 10, 12 years, So in a lot of ways, Lemon's probably the safer pick. And the fact that he plays inside and you have 2 guys who play predominantly out wide, Puka and Devontae Adams, I could see where Lemon works. And then as long as Puka, stops saying anti-Semitic remarks and doesn't bite women, you have a nice, awesome 1-2 punch of Puka and Mekhi Lemon, and that's, like not to get too crazy here, but like, I think Puka at this point, he's checked into rehab. He's taken the necessary steps. So let's have some fun here. I've been going Tyson a lot, but let's go Mekhi Lemon. Let's go Lemon here at 13.
My question for you with that, and what I was thinking as you were talking is like my scale tipper would be the personality thing, right? Because like, man, you've already got a lot of personality in that wide receiver room. You've already got a lot of shit going wrong personality wise, just with Puka Nacua. Man, they would have a serious balancing act, I think, here potentially. Like, you don't want Puka Nacua and Mekhi Lemon going out partying after games. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
What I'll say is, like, I know that the combine was weird for Mekhi, but think about the context of that event where like you start the day doing team and media interviews, and then you have to go out there and you have the biggest job interview of your life, basically. And your life kind of depends on the measurables and the athletic testing. And then you follow it up with medical checks and more team interviews. So like super stressful event. And like, yeah, the interview stuff was weird, but I try not to hold it against them because after doing the Senior Bowl, specifically that first time, by the end of the week, I know I was probably having like crazy death stares of people, not even thinking about it, looking off into space, not knowing what I'm doing, so I try to give them a little bit of a break there because it's that's an insane 7-day work interview, like you're auditioning for 32 jobs basically. So it's a little tough. And I think ultimately we can make this work. But now to your point, living in LA, even if you're not that type of person, living in LA will make you that type of person. So like, there is definitely some maturity that comes with being a Ram, being, a Charger, what have you, being a Raider in Vegas, all that sort of stuff. Some landing spots make it more difficult. The Titans in Nashville, some places make it tough.
All right. Well, how about Baltimore? I've seen Baltimore be a place that grabs Jordan Tyson at times, and he's third on their fans board here. But I also think Ioane is an amazing fit right there. So,
yeah, I think Tyson makes a lot of sense just because that's the X receiver they have never had. I think Kenyon Sadiq as like a likely replacement and then like an eventual successor to Mark Andrews feels like a Ravens kind of direction. Wenger Ioane, you can't go wrong with. What I'll say is at 45, I more often than not have one of Basantis or Pregnon make it there. So you could wait a little bit. Even like a Keelan Rutledge could be an option. But Vega does make sense still. But also a Key Mesidor. Like you have one technician of a pass rusher on one side now with Trey Hendrickson. Allegedly wanted to bring Max Crosby into that. I'll let the audience decide if that's smoke or not. But instead of Tavius Robinson and Adisa Isaac and Kamian Rucker being your compliments, could you just go Akeem Mesidor, NFL ready, win now type of piece, a little older, but this team wants to win now. Like they didn't plan to pick at 14. So Hendrickson plus Mesidor, you just have these two guys who are just like absolute demons with their hand fighting and have like a deep bag too. So 4 different options there. And honestly, Vega's tough for me to pass on just because that feels like a Ravens fit. Like that feels like a Raven through and through. But honestly, I kind of want to go Akeem Mesidor and just see where that goes and how that affects the board.
There he is right there.
Yeah.
Making the play, beating Trey Zoom.
And think about him plus Hendrickson. Like if you have, like when they played Dan Moore, if they play the Titans this year, like Dan Moore, it's like one of the most sloppy, like hand usage tackles in the NFL. Like that that's why he always got whooped up by Hendrickson when he was in the AFC North, excuse me. But like that's nightmare fuel for like that sort of tackle. Like you have to deal with 2 of those guys. Holy cow. So I kind of like Mesidor there.
Okay. All right. Well,
and I think
Mesidor it is. All right.
Plus you bring in John Simpson. I think you could wait a little bit on the guard play.
Now, do you think this is the Ioane spot for Tampa Bay? They had some real struggles on the offensive line last year, and it felt like that kind of was the reason for them falling apart a little bit. Ioane would really solidify some things there, and if they're fully healthy, like that's a real good offensive line.
And also built in an argument here. If you hate this mock draft and you think it went wrong at 14, just flip these 2 picks. If you hate them, just flip these 2 picks. Vega's a Raven and Mesidor is a Buck. Because I think either way, both sides are happy. Like the Bucks want to get better at their pass rush. Mesidor is an NFL ready pass rusher from a move standpoint. Or you look at Ben Bredesen playing left guard and you're like, yikes, that don't want to do that experiment again. And as a dynasty owner in 2 leagues of Bucky Irving, pump me full of Vega Ioane pause. Please let Vega Ioane be a Buck because I would love what that means for my fantasy team. I think that would be awesome. And also like Baker Mayfield, shorter quarterback. It's taken a lot of hits, dealt with a lot of injuries last year. Let's just try to get him a stalwart there at left guard and pass protection.
Okay. All right. Well, the Jets on the clock with their second pick. They went Arvell Reese, 2nd overall. Now they're here at 16. Are they the guys that take a risk on Jordan Tyson and say, let's have some talent in this wide receiver room? Because Garrett Wilson led their wide receivers with like 400 yards or less, I think. And he didn't play from like week 6 on.
I think they were like the first team since like the 70s or whatever it was to like not have a guy clear 400 yards, which is banana land. So, I know it's risky because we're also projecting Arvell Reese as like this edge conversion. And now you're taking Jordan Tyson here at 16 who has his injury concerns. What I will say is if Reese doesn't work out as an edge rusher, I'm telling you, you're getting a bad man as an off-ball linebacker. Like the floor to me is still relatively set for Reese because like he's still a beast. He's a blue chipper for me because of his off-ball linebacker tape. More so than the conversion to edge and what I think that'll look like. And then Tyson, man, like, yes, the injury concerns are there. And the hamstring is like the one that's most troublesome to me because like collarbone, that's kind of a freak thing. ACLs, they happen. You're a football player. You probably torn your ACL at some point. It's more about like this nagging hamstring that's kind of upsetting me. But that being said, if that can subside, he plays the X. And Mitchell's a Z, Garrett Wilson in the slot. Geno Smith, all of a sudden, you look at that compared to the supporting cast in Las Vegas, and you're like, hey, I'm not saying he's going to turn into a top 10 quarterback, but this is a lot more manageable of a supporting cast for him and Breece Hall. So I almost wonder if this could be the way to kind of get Geno back towards league average, maybe. So I like the upshot of Jordan Tyson, but ultimately it's going to come down to the injuries. I've said this before. If he only missed 1 game, I think he's the number 2 pick to the Jets. So now you get him here at 16 because he does have the injury question mark.
All right. Now the Detroit Lions, they have been a spot where I've been tempted to put Spencer Fano, and I've also put Blake Miller at times because they need a right tackle. They're moving Penei Sewell over to the left side, but they've also found the value of a center when Frank Ragnow left. So look, I think that you can probably get yourself a center if you want like a pure center later in the draft, but having a guy that could both plug your right tackle and then potentially flex into center later on, if necessary, just feels like too much of a value to pass up. I feel like they should grab Fano in this situation. What do you think?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Honestly, and they've pretty much made it known that they want Penei Sewell to play left tackle. And you look at Penei Sewell, 33 and a quarter inch arm length. So the difference between him and Spencer Fano is 3/8 of an inch in arm length. So I also think this is a team that kind of looks at it and they're like, that's close enough, dude. So I think they would take Spencer Fano here. He would be their right tackle. And then worst case scenario, you give kind of like the Will Campbell thing in New England. Worst case scenario, he fails and he sucks after 2 years. He's going to be a bad man at right guard, replacing Jonah Jackson, who we're going to let that $20+ million come off the cap. Now there's a rookie contract guy there. So you can't really miss with this pick. And also, like, they bring in Cade Mays. You look at the guarantees of that contract, you can move on from him after 2 years also. So whether it's center, right guard, right tackle, somewhere Spencer Fano is a starter for you.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And then, I mean, here for Minnesota, Thieneman's the easy pick, right? I mean, he's the continuous pick. I feel bad, I almost feel bad doing it because it's like I'd like to throw a curveball, but at the same time, like I want to be realistic, and Thieneman just makes sense.
Yeah, he does. He really, especially when you look at that safety room being Josh Metellus, who his best ball is coming the nickel. And then it's Jay Ward, Tavares Thomas, hand up, never heard of that guy. Theo Jackson, I guess he played for the Titans last year. News to me. The only trepidation I have about that is it's two things. One, Brian Flores doesn't typically play rookies right away. Like, look at Dallas Turner. Like, for 2 years, they moved up to draft this guy at 17, and then they didn't play him for 2 years pretty much. And I think some of that is like a Flores thing. But I do think Thieneman is so NFL ready. He could buck that trend. The other side of my brain is like, hold on, let me look up this contract real quick. Jordan Addison. How much longer is he even in Minnesota? Let's be completely honest. Because at this point, like, he's making it hard to justify any sort of a contract extension for. And I think this is his last year of his rookie deal. Last year of his rookie deal, and then the 5th-year option. Which, are you going to pay him $10+ million a year next year to go be your 5th-year option? I don't know. And you know who's an awesome fit for this team? Omar Cooper Jr. So I'm kind of between like Omar Cooper Jr. and Dylan Thieneman here. I think both are home run fits. I could just see a world in a deep safety class, this team waiting on safety. I think they could look at, and hold on, let me look up their picks real quick. They have pick 49 and then 82 and 97.
Okay, so let's say AJ Halsey at 49 and Omar Cooper here, right, or Dylan Thieneman here, and wide receiver at 49 would be, I don't know, maybe Jeremy Bernard, someone like that.
And Bernard would be fine. Maybe Ted Hurst if they really like that. Maybe, but I don't even love that, to be completely honest.
Surratt in that range.
Maybe. I kind of like him more as like a mid to late 3rd round guy. So honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards Omar Cooper Jr. here. And then, like, yeah, whether it's at 49, your safety's probably Halsey. I think you're hitting the nail on the head there. Or you do it at, what's that 3rd round pick? 82. Genesis Smith, Kamari Ramsey could definitely be there. Who else? I'm a big Bud Clark guy, and I could totally see where they like the coverage skill set of Bud Clark as well. Traded Stukes, slot corner, that could be a free safety. Honestly, it would be trading Stukes for me. So I'm going to go Omar Cooper Jr. here, and then I'm going to try to put my eyes on trading Stukes somewhere on day 2 for the Vikes.
Okay. All right. That I grabbed Omar. I made it Omar Cooper Jr. for you. So that's what we're.
And the other side is, while you still have Addison, Hawkinson's also taking a step back. Like, Hawkinson's not the same guy he was pre-injury. So naturally, there's some targets up for grabs right there. So I think Omar Cooper Jr. minimum. Now you've got 3 receivers you can kind of divvy that up between.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make this one quick. I made the argument for Kenyon Sadiq in the past to Carolina. I think that's what we did the last time we did this. Carolina really didn't change anything in terms of passing targets. They did a whole lot on defense, and that kind of shut down the thoughts I had about giving them a defender. So I'm going to go Kenyon Sadiq here and kind of give Bryce Young another weapon, eliminate excuses. You're going to really figure out if Bryce Young's your guy this year. And we've got like 10 minutes left. So let's speed through these last few.
It's okay. I can go a little bit beyond 10 minutes. But also, I like that too, because like he feels like the blend of JT Sanders and Tommy Tremble, the blocking ability of Tremble, but like the natural receiver upside that we kind of thought JT Sanders brings. So I like that a ton.
Yes.
Dude, this is now we get back to Dallas. I think I'm going to take Thieneman here. I mean, you saw how long I deliberated between him and McCoy at 12. Now you get them both. And in one fell swoop, 12 and 20, you overhaul that secondary for the next 5 years. I'm sprinting the card. And I mean, I'd love CJ Allen here. Trust me, I think he would be a great DeMarvion Overshown compliment. But they have pick 92, and whether that's Aiden Fisher, Kyle Lewis, It's a deep linebacker group, man. Like Josiah Trotter could be there. That wouldn't shock me. Keyshawn Elliott from Arizona State. Deontay Lawson from Bama, if he's your guy. Tyrion York from Texas A&M. I think there's a lot of options. So, yeah, I'm going to go Dylan Thieneman, and holy cow, him plus McCoy. All of a sudden, I've gone from like, oh, that secondary in Dallas is atrocious. Russell Wilson just threw for 450 yards against him in week 3. What's going on? And then one draft, it's like, oh, never mind. That might be the biggest strength of that team.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, again, on the flip side, like if the worst happens with McCoy and McCoy's knee is, falls to pieces, like you at least have another member of the secondary. Like your secondary isn't completely shot; it's not hinging on one player and whatnot. I like that. All right, so your Steelers are on the clock now, and you've gone Ty Simpson for them in the past. I've gone Drew Aller because I don't know. I just like him better. Honestly, because I think Drew Aller might be a starter someday and like a decent start. Like I think he has the tools to be a decent starter. And I think Ty Simpson and Garrett Nussmeier and a couple other quarterbacks in this draft are just going to be backups. Like I think that's their ceiling. I think their ceiling is like maybe a decent backup, maybe a solid backup. Like, and I don't think a backup quarterback is unimportant. I think a backup quarterback is very important. But like, I just don't think that their ceiling is as like a great starter. And I think Aller has a higher ceiling. But I mean, do you think it has to be quarterback? What do you think about?
I don't think it has to be. I don't think it has to. And this is another thing I talked to Corey Kinnan on while I was on his podcast, and I posed him the question: would you rather have Ty Simpson round 1 or Drew Aller round 3? And the reason I asked that is because that's where I think the Steelers are going to go. It's either Ty at 21 or Aller probably with that first third round pick at 74. I think McCarthy's going to talk him into saving one of those two guys or being the answer, the guy who can unlock one of those two quarterbacks. So honestly, let's have some fun here. We either go Casey Concepcion, which I've heard that McCarthy kind of has some hope for Roman Wilson. So I love KC, and I would love to see KC replace Roman Wilson. But frankly, I think they're gonna, if they don't go quarterback, I think O-line is probably the bigger priority. You still got a hole at guard, but with Venga gone, it is what it is. You got Caleb Lomu, Caden Proctor, Blake Miller, and I'm looking at Proctor. Could he be that guard? But I'm also looking at Blake Miller, dude. That's an NFL-ready guy. Like, that guy is going to play right tackle. And then, yes, we're asking Troy Fautano to move to left side, but that's where he played his college ball at. So I'm honestly leaning towards Blake Miller here at 21, just NFL-ready guy. Really? I think McCarthy would look at him and be like, that's a plug-and-play option. Let's go. So I'm kind of leaning Miller here if we're not going to go quarterback.
Okay. All right. I would have given you guys Concepcion, but this is your team. So
let's do Miller. Because if the Roman Wilson stuff is true, he should be a good 3 for this team. He should be a good slot receiver for this team, considering who he was at Michigan. And it's a new coaching staff. Whatever he had on Mike Tomlin, hopefully he doesn't have on Mike McCarthy. That's all I can hope for. So,
all right, fair enough. Well, LA's on the clock here. We'd mentioned the left guard, Ioane, not being there anymore, and that's really their top need is anything along that offensive line. But the thing is like they don't need tackle. Like they've got good tackles. Right. They just need to not be on OT5 or whatever it is. Right. But there's nothing you can do to avoid that. Like you can't have 6 good tackles just in case you end up on OT5. So I do feel like interior is where they need to draft. And to me, it's like, looking at this setup, probably Basantis is the best pick here. I feel like he's a little bit of a better pass protector than Pregnon, and made specifically for Herbert. I think we might have done that with the last one too. So I mean, not a lot's changed, right? The Chargers still have holes along the interior there.
Yeah, no, totally. And I like Basantis. I actually have Pregnon as my guard too. And I almost wonder if like that 320-pound big physical build, is that the meshing of like Harbaugh meets McDaniel? I almost feel in 98th percentile 40 time. I think I might lean Pregnon here, and I just have a slightly higher grade on him. I still really like
Proctor.
Say what now?
What about Proctor? And what about Proctor trying to do what didn't work with Beckham?
One. If you're comfortable with him playing guard, that could be twofold here. 1, he's your left guard. 2, if Slater does go down, then you've got, another tackle option. So I'm cool going Caden Proctor here too. He's kind of like twofold option here for you.
Yeah, let's do that because I feel like they looked at Mekhi Becton. They saw something that they wanted to try. Clearly, it didn't work. Yeah. Why? I have Proctor going a lot to Philly because of the similarities with Mekhi Becton. I think there's a similar argument with LA.
Yeah, no, I like it.
All right. Well, that does put Philly on the clock, and Philly could go a number of different directions with this. They have edge listed as their top need, tight end, wide receiver, O tackle. Peter Woods is the number one guy being picked by the fans here. So,
And I wonder if part of that is like, you know, it bracing for a Jalen Carter trade. Like I've heard some rumors that like Jalen Carter to the Vikings for Grenard in a second, and I think that would be really interesting. And if you did do that, Peter Woods would make some sense here.
wow.
I almost wonder, and then also you have like the AJ Brown of it all, like kind of looming over the situation. I've heard that Caleb Lone was training both left and right tackle this offseason. Could he be your Lane Johnson in like waiting? Or do they just go? Honestly, they could also see Maxi Iheanacho and just say, "Hey, we're gonna develop him for a year." But honestly, edge, I could see where Howie's just trying to get back to his roots there. And frankly, they don't have a power rusher, so I know he's not like a sexy name right now. But TJ Parker kind of looks like the guy that Brandon Graham-esque player who wins with the bull rush, who wins with the long arm, plays the run at a high level. I almost wonder if that's the guy they don't have, because right now it's Jalix Hunt, Azeez Ojulari, a lot more of these kind of bendy finesse, you know, speed rushing types. So I almost wonder if Parker's like the missing power element.
All right. Well, let's do Parker then. See how it all fits together there. Now the Browns are on the clock here, and first overall they went with Monroe Freeling. They filled in most of the rest of their offensive line. They need a wide receiver. Their top guy right now is Jerry Jeudy, and you could argue Harold Fannin Jr., who, to me, like Fannin Jr. is just a weird fit in the NFL. Like he just kind of like almost doesn't have. He just kind of like doesn't look like he belongs in the NFL sometimes, like just fit wise, frame wise, athleticism wise. But they make it work.
Yeah, totally.
You think that wide receiver is the easy pick here? And if so, is it Boston or is it Concepcion or someone else?
That's the question for me. And I've heard that they like Cedric Tillman. It's just he's never healthy. So that's like the sticking point here. We're like, okay, if Tillman can't stay healthy, let's just go draft Boston. And like that's our X receiver of the future. He's going to make life easier. But I also like I'm looking at Malachi Corley as a guy who's like receiver 3 for them. And I'm like, I would certainly like to change that. And if Tillman can stay healthy, I think he's probably the best receiver of this bunch. I mean, Judy's had moments, don't get me wrong, but he also comes with a lot of trouble. Is Casey Concepcion a little redundant with Isaiah Bond? Maybe, but you know, Isaiah Bond, I don't know if you're like fully counting on him being a high level starter for you. So I kind of lean towards Casey Concepcion. He is the higher ranked player on my board. So I think let's go Casey here at 24. And then let's hope Cedric Tillman can stay healthy.
Okay. All right. We can do that. Here's a little, I've been clipping some little video clips here and there. So here's a little handoff from Casey Concepcion where he just leaves Bain flat-footed there. Bain has no idea what the hell's going on. Casey Concepcion's just, I'm out of here.
And he played 65% of the snaps outside. Casey. So like, I think he could be your Z, and then you move Judy into the slot. Might be the best thing for Judy also.
Okay. All right. Well, here we got Chicago on the clock. Look, their fans seem to feel like they need DL. I would have kind of trended towards safety personally, but what do you think? Peter Woods, Keldrick Fall, Kristen Miller, Zion Young. There's a theme running with their fans here. I'm not going to argue with them. Let's pick one of the top 4 guys.
I kind of like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, like him plus Kobe Bryant. That's a home run tandem. And McNeil-Warren is not like a finished product. But I just think about Al Harris being their DB coach, and like wherever he goes, turnovers follow. And like McNeil-Warren's already got that like ability to just, you know, punch it loose with the peanut punch, right place, right time. He's got a little bit of that. And I wonder if Al Harris could be the guy that kind of evens out some of the tackling stuff. And like we said earlier, it's a good edge class. You could kind of wait. Peter Woods would be really interesting as like an attacking 3-tech for that Dennis Allen defense. So like I could totally see Peter Woods here. But I kind of want to go with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren and give him that running mate next to Kobe Bryant.
All right. Yeah, that's where I naturally think to go. I mean, their fans have him as the 13th option in this particular situation, which I think is wild personally. That's exactly where I would have gone as safety. So yeah, let's do that. I mean, I was thinking, well, you know, I agree. Safety is the way to go. All right. Buffalo's here. They don't have a second round pick anymore. They traded that for a wide receiver in DJ Moore from Chicago. Where do you think they need to go here? The fans seem to think defensive line.
Yeah, no, I want to have some fun here. I typically go Caden McDonald here, and that's like a very boring, like eat your vegetables type of pick. They just don't have a nose tackle in this roster. But it's a D tackle class that can kind of go for a little bit. And like maybe this is a team that trades back, right? Like we kind of floated that Titans trade as a possibility here. Maybe Titans move up, they take Denzel Boston, and then you take Lee Hunter at 35 or something like that. But also, like, could you go get someone like Dominique Orange or Dante Corleone, Tim Keenan, even from Alabama a little bit later on to be that nose? You probably could. So, I've seen some people float out this being a landing spot for Cassius Howell, and he is undeniably a little Nick Benito-like. They have two guys who can play early downs in Chubb and Rousseau, who are both great against the run still. Or Rousseau definitely is. Chubb fine against the run. But honestly, the hot name for a DPR right now is not necessarily Cassius Howell. It's Malachi Lawrence. So I kind of want to go Malachi Lawrence and just give this. We kind of talked about with David Bailey being like he could be the Chiefs, Dwight Freeney type. Same thinking here for Malachi Lawrence. Hey, we got guys who can play the run, but when we're up 10 points, we're playing in a dome this year. That makes Malachi Lawrence that much more explosive and dangerous. That's going to be the guy that when we're up 10 in the fourth quarter, he's going to put the game away for us. So I'm going to go Malachi Lawrence there and have some fun.
All right. Malachi Lawrence it is. San Francisco's up next on the clock. Now, in the past draft, I believe we gave them Concepcion.
Yeah.
And in this particular situation, number one, Concepcion's not on the board anymore. He went a few picks ago. Number two, their fans would have them selecting Woods or Keldrick Falk. And they've also got Caleb Lomu as a third option. It's literally, it's basically 4 different positions with the top 4 options here. So where do you think they go? Because they did go wide receiver in free agency with Mike Evans. So do you take Denzel Boston and have him kind of like
shadow Mike Evans?
I don't know.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, I don't feel like that's the way to go.
Would it be too hard to do a trade here on the Draft Professor's website? Because this would be like the Titans.
Literally
I think
not
the Titans
possible. Yeah.
Okay. Because this would be the Titans trade up here. Like, I don't love anything I'm looking at here for the 49ers, to be completely honest with you, other than Caleb Lomu. Like, I'd be on board for that. It's like a long-term plan. So if I'm going to have to stick and pick, I'll go Lomu. Let me double check their D line actually before I say that, because maybe Peter Woods does make sense. Nah, they just got Osei Digizua. I'm good. I'll go Caleb Lomu here.
Yeah,
since we're forced to stick and pick, but
okay. Yeah, Lomu makes sense to me. I know to me, like Falk wouldn't make sense because Michael Williams to me is kind of so similar to Falk. Yeah, I find it interesting that he's like the second option on the list because it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But yeah, Lomu makes sense to me because it's like you can have him come in and look, they're going to figure out whatever with Trent Williams on the left tackle. Okay, nobody's trading anything valuable for like a 38-year-old left tackle, and so they're going to have to be forced to figure it out. Yeah. So Caleb Lomu, listen, he's going to be. I think he's a solid prospect, and I think you give him kind of a year, maybe at left guard next to Trent Williams, and learn from him. And why not?
Exactly. And honestly, he probably needs a year to transform his body a little bit anyways. So this could be like the kind of perfect red shirt spot for him.
Yes, agreed. All right. Well, Houston, they still need help on the offensive line. They patently refuse to bring in any offensive line players whatsoever. They clearly hate CJ Stroud. I can't figure out what the hell they're doing in Houston. I really can't. Like, I try to be a little more like diplomatic about things normally, but I don't know what the hell's going on with Nick Caserio and his just complete aversion to even like knowledge that the offensive line exists. But let's just pretend for like 5 seconds they remember that CJ Stroud does actually need some protection. What would be the best way to get him that here?
Well, especially considering we're talking pass pro, like Basantos to me is like probably the best pass protecting guard. Him and Vega, like they're both awesome as pass protectors. But that being said, and I mean, we do have this situation where, I guess we still have Pregnon on the board, right? Yeah, we do still have Pregnon on the board. Pregnon would make some sense too, because like Nick Haley, they just want to run a little bit more gap. So they want to have that blend of gap and zone. So Pregnon would probably be the O-line pick here. But could one of those two guys make it to you at 38? I wonder. I think at this point they could. So why don't we go Peter Woods? Attacking 3-tech for D'Amico Ryans next to Tommy Togiai. His run defense will play. There were a couple games midway through the season last year where their run defense was a little spotty. Woods helps that. And then, like, if he's going to take a next step as a pass rusher, it'll probably come in an environment with Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson. So, and also, like, I think he kind of gave up midway through this year. Once, like, Clemson was out of the playoff picture and not going to win a natty, I think his, for lack of better phrasing, earmuffs here, his give a fuck just went through the floor. I think D'Amico Ryans is the guy who's like, that's a non-starter. That is not going to happen in that Houston building. So I kind of like Peter Woods there as a fit for the Texans.
Yeah, and I mean, he's going to be surrounded by dudes that aren't going to let that shit fly. Okay, like Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter will eat him alive.
Exactly.
You will figure it out, dude. You're going to play through the whistle here. Okay.
Even Togiai, what was it? Week 17, he picks up that fumble and he houses it because he's supposed to get the, like even Togiai is kind of a madman. So yeah, no. The bar is going to be set high for Woods.
I agree with that. All right. Well, Kansas City's back on the clock. We had them take Caleb Downs at 9 overall. Their fans have them take Keldrick Falk in this particular situation. And I'm not sure I hate it, but I don't love it. What do you think?
I mean, I understand where they're coming from, but this is a team that needs pass rush juice. So, like, I know he's like the type they normally draft, but frankly, I almost wonder if you get more pass rush juice out of Zion Young or Gabe Akis in a spot more than Folk, at least right away. And if they're comfortable waiting 2 years, okay, cool. But like, this is a team that should win now. I know we've already gone secondary, but I'd go Avion Terrell. And I would just say, hey, we let 2 corners go this offseason. Now we got a corner and a safety to backfill that. Spags is going to have everything he needs. And then we're going to kind of engineer the pass rush as much as we can. And also, again, like I said earlier, deep edge group. So is it someone in round, like at 40? You pick at 40. You get Zion Young there. You just go take Young, Akis there at 40, and there's your pass rusher. So, yeah, I kind of like Avion Terrell. Inside-outside versatility. He is kind of shades of Trent McDuffie, not fully like saying he is Trent McDuffie, but like shades of that for sure. And also his tackling ability, he's a Spags dude for sure.
All right, I like it. All right, well, Miami's back up on the clock, and what did we do for them earlier? We got them Francis Mauigoa. So they plugged one hole in the offensive line. You could probably argue there's, maybe 2 others, but so like, listen, Miami, I feel like Miami could go, like you had talked about Green Bay not taking corners, and I've just consistently felt like Miami could go like back-to-back corners at points in this draft and be fine and still have room in the cornerback room. Like,
it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me, honestly, if they made Chris Johnson a surprise first-round pick here and then took D'Angelo Pons. Or they make Pons the surprise first-round pick name, and then they go take Chris Johnson at 40, 43 or whatever that pick is. But also, wide receiver is rough right now.
And what if they're thinking what the same thing Renner was thinking the other day? Because Renner made Pons the Jets' first pick in the second round, right?
Right.
So he was right off the board at like 34 or whatever. Miami might feel the need to snipe them, step in and grab it, because Pons is going to be like, listen, you're rebuilding a secondary basically. Pons is like a leader to me. Whether he plays slot, whether he plays boundary, I don't actually give a shit. But he's going to run that room. He's going to be the dude who sets the tone, and I really like that. I like that at 30, honestly.
You want to go Pons? I was going to say, the only other guy I would say here is like Denzel Boston does give shades of like Nico Collins. I'm not saying he's as good as Nico or anything like that. But could Bobby Slowick squint and be like, there it is. That's the X receiver I need. That's the guy who I want to have running my offense through. So I would say Boston or Pons here. But honestly, Pons is kind of fun because let me see what his odds are. D'Angelo Pons, first round. I've seen a lot of people mentioning Malachi Lawrence as like don't be surprised if. Like me, like plus 4,000 for the first corner drafted. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
I'm not really seeing a great. It's tough. Getting betting market stuff is tough on the fly. But I think he would be the name that 80% of the people who were watching the draft on Thursday night would be like, huh? The 5'8" guy just went round 1? But like people who know ball are just going to be like, that's a good football player, dude. Like he deserved it. He's earned it. So you want to just do Pons here and have some fun?
Yeah, absolutely. That's who I like.
Inside out versatility, no matter what happens, Hafley's got him as like a fixture of that room. I like that a ton. And also like, JMU climbing the ranks, Indiana coming from Kurt Signetti. Like that's a voice you want at the front of that room for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, he's, I think he ultimately probably does end up playing in the slot, but I think that's better for them because it's like you want your leader towards the middle of the field. Like it's hard to lead when you're on one hash and or boundary and your furthest teammates on the other boundary. Like I actually kind of like that. Build
100%.
your team from the center out has always been my philosophy.
Yeah, and I've been, I mean, back on my channel, I've been pounding the table for nickel corner to be like the next premium position that teams look at. And I think we're getting there. I think we're starting to get there. And this would be like another step in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want to do here for your Patriots? I've been waiting for this for 30 picks now.
All right. Yeah, I mean the way the board fell is interesting. I've made arguments for Denzel Boston on many occasions. Someone mocked Caden McDonald to us recently. You recently did CJ Allen on your podcast. I was going to kind of ask, I think for me, it would be a choice between Max Ihenacor and honestly a little bit of a reach, but I like Gabe Akis better than the rest of these guys in this particular board right here. So I think for me, it would be a flip between Max Ihenacor and Gabe Akis.
Yeah, and the reason we went Allen, and I know you already heard me say this, but Allen, like he is, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And something about that, I feel like Vrabel's like, that's my guy. I love that guy. But like seeing him work with Max Ihenacor, I'm like, all right, damn, did he just tip his hand? Is Ihenacor the pick at 31 if he gets there? So I'm totally here for Mad Max too. But that being said,
yeah, I mean,
I really like the Akish now. I can totally see where he's like a Vrabel guy. And frankly, that's the defensive end. You guys, like I always struggle giving y'all an edge. But he's the guy. He can play stand up. He can play with his hand in the dirt. Like this is Kyle Van Noy-ish with his flexibility and playing inside and outside the tackle. Akis, honestly, I kind of like that as a fit, to be honest.
This is Akis beating Tiernan right around, and then boom,
Akis
takes
is a good
him
football
down.
player, man. He's a good football player.
Yeah, and the one thing I would say about the hands-on thing with Vrabel and Ihenacor is like it's just a matter of the camera being there. That's just how he coaches. That's just how he scouts. It's how he does everything. Is very hands-on. So it's like, at BC he was the same way with Jude Bowery and those guys, but they just didn't blow it up. And I remember I was looking for more video of other times, and there was one where Christian Wilkins during his draft cycle, where Vrabel was getting hands-on with him, and they didn't end up taking him.
Right.
They had the option to take him. They had the chance to. But all right, yeah, you know what? I think that's what I am going to do. I think man, I feel like the right draft order for the Patriots is going to ultimately be offensive tackle, edge, and then playmaker. Whether it's a wide receiver, tight end, I think there's a chance they like Mike Washington Jr. too in the second or third round. And I think probably the second or third round, they're going to trade up because they just have so many picks. So
if they don't go Akis here, though, who would be your second round target? That would be like, to me, if you don't take Akis here, I'm not sure there is a guy that fits that. But if you don't take Ihenacor here, I don't know what your right tackle options are either, other than like Demetrius Crownover, and you just like pray to God you can develop his intangibles.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to take Akis here just to mix things up. I've taken Ihenacor so many times.
I'm going to definitely steal that in some future mocks. I kind of love that fit right there.
Yeah.
I think once you get to pick
I really like him.
Once you get to pick 25 this year, I think teams are just going to be like, I'm just going to get my guy. Like at this point, 25 to 75, all these guys are kind of crunched into one bucket. It's just about going to get your guy. Yeah. So like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Puzzle pieces. And I think they could view Akis as like, that's the puzzle piece we need right now. Even if they have other guys that they maybe like more, it makes more sense to go here. Like Akis there. It's like, it's same thing with Pons, right? Like this guy is going to be a fixture for us for 5 years. Like, let's just go get a good football player.
Exactly. All right. So Seattle's on the clock. This is our last pick. And we're going to speed out of here as fast as possible. Who do you like for Seattle? Because you know what? I feel like Keldrick Falk, the fall could stop here.
Yeah. And this is, and I know you've heard me say this a ton, I'm totally here for guard, but I think this is another team that can kind of probably wait on it. But if they went Pregnon here or Basantis, every time they draft a guard in the first round, they win a Super Bowl. So like, don't hate that line of thinking whatsoever. Caden McDonald would be certainly fun. But I just look at the measurables between Falk and Tank Lawrence, and they're pretty freaking close. And you also look at how Falk plays the run and like how Tank Lawrence played it last year. I think that to me is like a seamless passing of the torch to me. So Seattle's biggest strength last year was the ability to just live in nickel and like, hey, we got a 4-man front. Good luck running against it. Congratulations, 3 yards, if that. Like their ability to do that was such a strength that, and Nick Neiman Warrior is a part of that too in the nickel. But the ability to just live in nickel and you have such a frustrating time running against that front. I think Folk keeps that strength long term. So I like Folk there at 32.
Yeah. All right. Well,
and that would be
Folk
landing spot. Like Folk's the one guy. Whoever you mock into, him and Ty Simpson, I've told you this before. Wherever you put him in a mock draft, that fan base is coming for your throat. Like they hate it, except for Seattle. So like Seattle fans must know ball because they're the one team that never complains about Folk. And a part of it is just like this guy who you don't really know what he's going to be in 5 years. If all of a sudden you put him in a Mike McDonald defense, you're like, okay, whatever it is in 5 years, I'm pretty bullish about what it turns into. So like I feel like that's part of easing that pill to swallow.
Well, and the one thing that I wanted to say when we were up there on that was that Denzel Boston was the second option on that board for them, and he would make a lot of sense in that wide receiver room, with JSN being kind of the expert route runner, Rashid Shaheed being the speed option, and Denzel Boston just being the big body, red zone, contested catch, possession type receiver. Man, that would really build that wide receiver room out like expertly.
Totally. I will call that one. I wanted to have the Titans trade up for Boston. So I will say that's part of the reason it fell out of my head. And then secondly, look at this graphic. I love that. And then secondly, I will say I'm a big Torrey Horton guy and I'm a full on Torrey Horton believer. So that's probably part of why I also had Denzel Boston kind of drift from my mind there.
All right. Well, listen, we ran a little bit over. I really appreciate you making the time, sticking around for the end of this. I had some connection problems in the start, so we kind of got a later start than we wanted to. But thank you so much for making the time, TJ. We really appreciate it.
100%. And why don't, in like another week or so, why don't we just pick up where we left off? We'll just plug all these picks in and we'll just go run right from there. We'll just do the second round continuation.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you got time, just let me know. I'll touch base with you on X. And speaking of which, everybody get on X, follow TJ, follow him over at the 32 Beat Writers channel at TJ Wengert. He has his own channel. You're still running your own channel.
Yeah. Actually, in a little peek behind the curtain here. So you're going to get to hear this first, you and your audience. But after the 26th draft, we will be turning my channel into the draft channel. At this point, it's just kind of tough. And this is, again, peek behind the curtain. It's just tough when you have a YouTube channel that's operating both as like fantasy and draft. The algorithm doesn't know who to recommend you for. So ultimately the plan is 2026 draft will end on April 27th, 28th, whatever it is. And then at that point, I'm going to overhaul the Teach channel, and that's going to become the name for the new draft podcast, which I'll keep that one close to my chest. And then we're going to overhaul the 32 YouTube as it is into the fantasy space. So definitely be on the lookout, and all those, updated ats and, pages and whatnot will be made public. But yeah, just follow 32 Beat Writers for all those updates.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, and the links will be in the description as always, guys. So if you want to follow TJ, and you do, I promise you, go click on one of those links. Make sure you're subscribing to his channel. Make sure you're following him on X. You don't want to miss any of that great content. So thanks again so much for your time. We're going to get out of here. Have a great day, guys. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 live solo.